As parents, all we want to do is keep our children safe and out of harm's way. We want to, we tell our children not to touch something hot in fear of them being burnt. We tell them not to climb too high in fear of them falling. We tell them to look both ways in fear of them being hit by a car. But we often do not give them the knowledge that could keep them safe from sexual abuse. I feel so passionate about this subject that I want to dedicate my career to helping children who have been sexually exploited. And as a mother of two, I want to do everything in my power to prevent my children from being hurt. Child sexual abuse is a huge problem. According to D2L.org, 1 in 10 children are sexually abused by the time they turn 18. So chances are that you know someone that has been a victim or will be a victim of sexual abuse. I want to encourage you all to talk to your children about sexual abuse. Today we will go over how prevalent this problem truly is, what are some ways you can do your part as parents to protect your children, and the benefits of talking to your children about sexual abuse. I want to first start by telling you the definition of child sexual abuse. According to enoughAbuse.com, child sexual abuse involves any sexual activity with a child where consent is not given or cannot be given. It is accomplished by force or threat of force regardless of age, and all sexual contact between a child and an adult. Regardless if this is from deception of the child or if the child understands the nature of the activity. Sexual contact between an older and younger child if there is a significant gap in age, development, and size, rendering the child from giving consent. Now, when you think of sexual abuse, you often relate it to rape or molestation, but through my research, I have found that non-touching abuse is also frequent. Some examples of this are exposing oneself to a child, violating a child's teen's privacy by watching them undress or bathe, speaking in a sexually explicit manner in person or over the phone. 90% are abused by someone they know. Abusers look like everyday people, from neighbors, uncles, grandparents, parents, caretakers, family members, or even children themselves. 30% are abused by family members, 60% are abused by someone that the family trusts, and 10% are abused by strangers. So now that you understand the extreme numbers, let's talk about ways you can help prevent sexual abuse. As parents, we are responsible for keeping our kids safe. We are responsible for making sure that they have all of the tools necessary to understand the difference between a healthy, loving relationship and an abusive one. These tools are essential because oftentimes abusers groom children. And according to nspcc.org, grooming is a process abusers use to gain the trust of their victims just to manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. To prevent grooming, it is important that we teach our kids about consent. We can do this by having open and honest conversations with our kids about bodies, our bodies, and sex.
Can we go in there? Should the lights be off?
Now, I want to argue that 20% of children under the age of 9 have already been sexually abused. This is why it is so important to have these conversations early and often. Another form of teaching kids consent is through tickling. For generations, tickling has been just a fun game that we play with kids. But because laughing is a reflexive response to tickling, it is hard to tell when a child is no longer enjoying the game. Now, I'm not saying don't tickle your children, but at the point when they say no or they tell you to stop, that is when the game is over.
We're going outside.
According to studies of Child Journal and Child Family Studies, this enforces to the children that they are the ones in control of their own body. Knowing warning signs can also help to prevent any more abuse. Some physical signs are frequent UTIs, bladder infections, pain, itching, bleeding, or bruising in the genital area. Now, if you can't see any emotional or physical signs, look for the emotional signs in your children, which could be inappropriate sexual behaviors for that child's age, self-harm, depression, develops phobias, and changes in personality. Let's now talk a little bit about the benefits of talking to your children can have. I understand that this topic is very hard to discuss. But since this is so prevalent in our world, I want to again state the importance of talking to our children about uncomfortable topics such as these. There are very important benefits to talking to your children, with a major one we have already discussed, is giving kids the tools and knowledge necessary to tell the difference between abuse and love. This gives children the confidence to come to you if abuse is occurring. Some parents may believe talking to children early on about sex can lead them to becoming engaged in sexual activities sooner. But studies from Sex Education Forum have found that it actually has the opposite effect. In their study, they have found with proper sex education, 40% of people in the program had positive impacts, including delayed initiation of sex, reducing the number of sexual partners, and increased contraception and condom use. Children who have not received any kind of sex education are more likely to receive inaccurate information from peers, movies, and media. This leaves you with little control over what sexual values they develop and what views they have on sex. Researchers tell us that kids that are sexually abused can suffer from a lifetime of negative effects such as PTSD, self-harm, depression, substance abuse, and substance abuse. I want to argue that if we just have these conversations, we can lessen the number of children that are abused, and then we will have children that will grow up with and live more healthier lives. In conclusion, talking to your children can have a huge impact on their lives. Today we have talked about the statistics of child sexual abuse, ways you can protect your child, and finally the benefits of talking to your children. I want to put this into perspective. In the 8 minutes of listening to me speak, another child has been a victim of sexual abuse. Sexual abuse does not discriminate against size, color, age, or gender. Sexual abuse is everywhere in our towns and our neighborhoods. So I ask parent to parent, Why wouldn't you talk to your children? Thank you.